Welcome into the Williamson Herald High School Football Weekly Report for the first round of the state playoffs. Charles, we finally made it.
I know, playoff time. We look great. That's the big thing about it too. My second job coming on. I had no idea you had hair like that.
I grew this afro in 1 week. Can you believe it? Lots of Rogaine went into that. So let's switch over to the football side, not talk about what you're wearing and my hair.
It's not distracting.
It is not distracting at all. It's not right in my face, and I can totally see the camera, that's for sure. Charles, we got a big first week of playoffs here, lots of action. It's going to be a fun one around here. What are you most excited for this week?
Well, after last week on Friday with the way Region 6-6A came down right to the wire, I mean, to the final seconds. I'm just excited to see these teams get into that playoff contention now. Franklin advancing into the playoffs after missing out last year. Looking forward to seeing how they do. Obviously a tough draw at Cane Ridge, but let's get right into it. There's a lot of football.
Yes, there is a lot of football. Like you said, 6A came down to the wire last week. Also Division II AA, the middle region, came down to the final week as well to determine a titleist there, but we're going to start in the 6A region. Charles, McGavock is going to travel to Brentwood. A tough game for McGavock. The Bruins are on a roll right now. Brentwood won this 36-7 over McGavock in the first round of last year's state playoffs, and you know the Bruins are just kind of rolling into it right now with a 28-21 win over Centennial last week to clinch that region title. So I like the Bruins in this one.
Oh, I do too as well, and it's just the Bruins I feel like they're in that mode now. It's playoff time. The way they won against Centennial to capture this region championship on Friday was something kind of special. Cade Granzel rushes for 4 touchdowns, including the game winner. The pass prior to that, Sports Center top 10 style, Avery Williams, 49-yard grab. He actually bobbled the catch, hauled it in, and then drug a defender another 10 yards or so. It was just a wild finish here in the rain. And, you know, obviously Centennial had a great game there, too. We saw Jerry Wilson break free for a 96-yard touchdown. 96.
Lots of explosion plays.
Yeah, it was just a loaded game, lots of action. Got to be sure to check out the link there so you can see that video. Story did a great job on that one, I feel like, where it just kind of captured everything that was there, because it was the final mark there, senior night here for Brentwood, so they honored Lucas Davis as well, so that was a special moment. But the Bruins in the playoffs against a McGavock team that really, you think about their wins, they're 3-7. All their wins were against those Region 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs, so they're a little tough up there, yeah. Yeah,
McGavock comes into this one, losers of 3 in a row. And we also want to say thank you to Coach Ron Crawford for letting us be here at Brentwood High School today and dressing like fools. Let's keep going in 6A. Ravenwood is going to host an Overton team that comes in 4-6. These are old Region 6A Region 3 teams from a couple of years ago. They were region foes, I think, for just 2 seasons. But the Raptors are coming to this one a little bit hot, and I think they're looking for a big win over Overton on Friday.
Ravenwood at Independence last week on Friday just dismantled the Eagles. It was 37-0. Independence just couldn't move the ball. The final score was 37-21, but all of those points and most of that offense were scored against the second string late in the fourth. To make it look a little more respectable, but anyone that was at that game will tell you that it was all Ravenwood. And so the Raptors enter the playoffs on a big high there. Got to say, Brian Garcia, our Gateway Tire Player of the Week this week, he actually rushed for 2 scores, threw a 69-yard strike to Andrew Mason in the second quarter, and with that touchdown, he actually is the all-time leader for passing touchdowns in Ravenwood school history with 23. So when you think about per a season to have 23 passing touchdowns, he's got the guys out there, Anthony Holmes, Andrew Mason. Those are some good targets, but a big one there for Ravenwood. Yeah,
Ravenwood comes into that one winners of 2 in a row. Overton's also won 2 in a row, last week beating Antioch 24-0, another one of those Region 5 teams that just really struggled down the stretch there in Antioch. Overton's also been shut out 3 times this year, so the Raptors defense looking for big things on Friday. Sticking in 6A, Indy is going to travel to Smyrna. Tough Friday for the Eagles last week, like we said, losing 37-21. They were down 37-0 at one point, I think, going into the fourth quarter in that game to Ravenwood. The Eagles could have wrapped up a 6-6A title last week instead of the 3 seed, and they have to travel to a Smyrna team that's 7-3. Indy won this first round matchup against Smyrna last year 14-13 in a close game. Could be another close one this year.
I think so too as well. And this was 14-13. They scored inside the final 3 minutes to take the lead in just a tough game over there, kind of knockout, drag-out style game. For Smyrna, I got to mention Coach Matt Williams. He might not be coaching on the sidelines for the Smyrna team. His wife is undergoing treatment for a brain tumor actually in Texas. So the whole community, obviously, football community here in Tennessee has kind of reached out to Smyrna. And I know the Eagles are friends here at Brentwood. Everyone's kind of at least, put their thoughts out there for Coach Williams there. So we want to mention that right away too. He may or may not be on the sidelines. I assume it's probably a no, but there's motivation in this game anyway, because last year's last fourth quarter drive kind of lost like that. So Smyrna's a great team. Their 3 losses come to Blackman, CPA, and then to Cane Ridge. So those are some quality teams.
Yes,
and, they battled Cane Ridge and actually held Cane Ridge to a season low in a 13-3 loss, I think, in week 7. So this is a tough team, and I think Indy's got a big uphill battle.
Yes, they do. Independence, of course. Last week, Ethan Cash struggled a little bit at quarterback for them. First game we've seen him struggle in for the Eagles, so hopefully they can right the ship, especially offensively, where they've been dominant all year long, except for last week against Ravenwood. The last game in 6-6A, Franklin is going to travel to Cane Ridge, a team you just mentioned who beat Smyrna. Cane Ridge 10-0 this season, just rolling. They have 2 1,000-yard rushers for that explosive offense in Devon Sterling and Jaquez Norman. How can Franklin and Dr. Defense Donnie Webb handle this Cane Ridge offense?
Well, that's the thing. I actually made a list of names that are going to have almost career-style games to slow a team like this. Cane Ridge comes in averaging more than 430 yards of offense, more than 300 on the ground. You mentioned Starling. He's rushed for 1,780 yards or something like that this season already in 10 games. 10 games to go with 21 touchdowns. So scary players out there. And then, of course, there's another change of pace guy who's rushed for more than 1,000 yards. And then your quarterback, Corey Andrews, a big 6'2", 215-pounder who could throw the ball when he needs to as well. So it is a scary offensive team in the Ravens out there. And I made a list of defenders that I feel like just have to have pristine games. And from Chapman Beard to Christian Moolman to Cooper Pock to Guy Lipscomb to John Kirkpatrick, guys like that. If you're doing a play-by-play on the radio, you want to be saying these guys' names all the time just for the Rebels really come in there and have a chance. Franklin 6-4, they won 4 or 5. I see a lot of possibilities there, but it is a big uphill battle. And, of course, guys like Matt Gaka and Josh Nichols just got to move the ball and play just turnover-free football.
Yeah, they have to play lights out there to handle that Cane Ridge team. Like you said, Franklin comes in winners of 4 of 5. The last 2 games they gave up 6 points to Spring Hill and 7 points to Dixon County. Not quite the offenses that Cane Ridge has, but their defense is coming in on a high note. Now let's go down a class down to 5A. Paige, the Patriots won the region 5-5A. They'll host a Hillwood team that comes in 3-7 overall. The Patriots have won 6 in a row, giving up 11 points per game in that stretch. I don't know if the Hilltoppers can come in and score enough to beat Paige.
Yeah, I think so too. Paige actually moves up in the final standings here for the AP. They finished number 4 in the state for Class 5A, so a great ranking there. They're 9-1. The only loss to Ravenwood, and obviously they lost their starting quarterback for the game in that one as well when Cade Walker went down. So you kind of give them a little bit of leeway in the one-loss category there. They beat Columbia 31-10 last week, and just another big performance. One thing that kind of gets me, though, is as an opponent coming to face Paige, they actually average more yardage per game. It still kind of gets me a little bit. Paige is actually giving up 70 extra yards than what they're getting game over game on average, but still I've seen them win games now and be outgained by 100 yards. Yeah. I don't understand that one.
It's football, Charles. It's just high school football and how things go. As you mentioned, Cade Walker coming back at quarterback for the Patriots. He's a great receiver in Michael Burdick to throw to. He also has 4 interceptions on the season this year, so he's playing really good in the defensive backfield as well. The other 5A game we have, Summit will travel to Beach. Summit, the 3 seed in Region 5-5A, traveling to a tough Beach team that's 7-3. Last year, these two teams met in the second round with with Beach winning.
Yeah.
Oh, quarterfinals, my bad. And with Beach winning 21-16 in that one, Spartans are looking for a little redemption on Friday.
Well, I think this one also, if both Summit and Paige win, it means we get an all-county second-round matchup, which is pretty entertaining as well.
We're calling for that.
Beach is all about running the ball, and obviously the Spartans are as well. A little more freedom out there to throw it, I feel like. Beach has completed, or actually attempted, 69 passes this year. All season, 10 games, 69 passes. They got some guys that can run the ball. 3 guys rushing for more than 500 yards. The one guy that kind of grabbed my attention was Tyshawn Jackson. He's listed at 5'5", 136. So I bet he is lightning quick. I have not seen Beach play this year, but he's one of the guys that I kind of have circled a little bit. He's rushed for more than 100 yards in each of the last 2 games, more than 800 yards on the season, 11 touchdowns. Beach is a tough team, and this run game is going to have to be slowed down to a crawl if someone has a chance at it.
Yeah, as you said, the running backs for Beach, they've scored 31. Those 3 running backs have scored 31 total touchdowns between them. So they know how to find the end zone. Hopefully Summit can bring their offensive game and their running backs led by George Odemegwu, who has my favorite name in the region to say. Let's move down another class to 4A. Nolensville will make their trip in the playoffs start at Macon County. Macon County 5-5, Nolensville 6-4, the 3 seed out of Region 4A. The Knights are coming into this one winners of 2 of 3, while Macon County's won 3 of 4. So something's got to give here.
Yeah, Macon County beat Livingston Academy 27-21 last week. This is one of those teams that, you know, being from the Williamson County area, I don't know that much about it. I haven't seen them in a while, obviously. It's just one of those tough things. But I've seen Livingston Academy play, so I think of that team as someone to gauge against. And Macon County 5-5 on the year, facing this Nolensville team that I think Zachary Campbell and Ryder Gilardi have just been on point over the last couple of weeks. Even though they lost at Maplewood 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Campbell looked fantastic there as Ryder's top target. He's caught, let's see, in that game he was 9 catches for 185 yards and 2 TDs. Last week he was 7 catches for 110 yards and 2 more touchdowns. So he's been on fire on the outside for him. And you still got Wesley Jones, you got Tim Kutros, you got Stay Skull, who was a recent John Mayer Builders Scholar Athlete of the Month winner there. So this team, I think, can keep going here. Colton Dooley rushed for a touchdown last week, back in that end zone feeling, I feel like. I think 88 yards on the ground. I think Nolensville can do it, but they just got to remain turnover-free for sure. Yeah,
the Knights coming into that one. Winner 21-17 last week against a pretty good Marshall County team to get the 3 seed in that region. Now we'll go down to 3A, where Fairview has just had an unbelievable season led by their offense. They're 8-2, and they'll host a Whites Creek team that, Charles, might not be the best team in the 3A state playoffs.
Well, and that's Whites Creek coming in with a 2-8 record. One of those is by forfeit. Obviously, Giles County playing with an ineligible player had to forfeit 5 wins, I think, and this was one of them, and this was the one that gets Whites Creek into one more game. Cobras have struggled for several years in a row now, and this was not an exception year for them. They, it's going to be going to Fairview on top of it. So the Yellow Jackets can gain a lot of confidence right out of the bat against not necessarily a playoff caliber team, but this is an opportunity for the guys just to get the confidence going, because this side of the bracket's tough. When you got East Nashville, you got Pearl Cone, you got teams like that, you have to get through to get deep into the playoffs. I think Fairview's going to at least be able to try to start and just get into the motions.
Yep, the offense for Whites Creek this year has struggled. They've been shut out their last 2 games going into the playoffs, and they've been shut out 6 times overall in 10 games this year. So they're struggling, but an offense that's not struggling, Fairview, with Brock Harris, their quarterback, throwing for 18 touchdowns this year. Logan Nardozzi, 1,100 rushing yards and another 8 touchdowns. And, of course, Cam Harris-Lusk, 26 total touchdowns, over 1,500 all-purpose yards. He just does a little bit of everything. He also punts for the Yellow Jackets. So literally whatever the Yellow Jackets need, Cam Harris-Lusk is there as the senior.
A Mr. Football candidate for sure when you think about that. It'd be disappointing not to see him there.
If he's not the winner of Mr. Football, then I'll be shocked, because he literally does everything on the football field. Now let's move over to Division II. In the AA class, we have CPA, the winner of the Middle Region, took home the Middle Region title in the final week of the season with a big 31-10 over FRA. They first forced 4 turnovers in that game. The defense for CPA keeps rolling alongside that hot offense.
the CPA offense, like you mentioned, Ryan Elledge. I mean, you could just go down the list of names here. And defensively, they just put on a show at FRA last week. I think they're entering the playoffs in a roll. Second straight Division II Middle Region Championship. I think CPA is going to be tough to beat for a while here. Yeah,
CPA has not lost a game in that Middle Region since switching classifications over last season. A perfect 8-0 in Division II AA Middle Region. The 2 seed out of that Middle Region, BGA, is going to host a Silverdale Baptist Academy. I think I said that correctly. I've never even heard of this team, Charles, but they're 5-5 this year, but they're traveling to a tough place to play at BGA. The BGA has won 4 games in a row, giving up a total of 17 points in that stretch. So things are just rolling right now for BGA.
I think so too, and I think the defense can have another opportunity for another big performance as well. Silverdale actually lost at Knoxville Webb last week, 38-7, and of course the winner of this game will advance to face either Knoxville Webb or Chattanooga Christian in the second round. So an opportunity there to see BGA and Knox Webb, 2 familiar foes on the football field, battle it out in the second round here. And I think the Silverdale team comes in here 5-5. Their 5 wins are against teams under 500. And 1 was winless. So, it's an uphill battle for, I've said that 3 times now, I think, but for Silverdale going to Franklin and taking on a BGA team that's just kind of found its groove here late in the season, I think it's going to be a tough one. Yeah,
Silverdale has lost 2 in a row going in and 3 of 4. So, as you say, that uphill battle might be a mountain of a battle for them.
There you go.
The last team in Division II AA and our last game for this week, FRA is going to host Grace Christian Academy in Knoxville. FRA 6-4 this year with a tough loss to CPA last week, 31-10, as we mentioned. They've lost 2 of 3 after that 5-game win streak they had in the middle of the season. But I think the Panthers can come out with a good win in this one.
I think so too, and they're just trying to get that offense going. Obviously, when they lost to BGA had one of their better defensive performances we've seen in a couple years. And when you face a team like CPA, scoring 10 points is almost expected because that's just such a tough defense to go against as well. But FRA needs to get things rolling here because, again, if they win this one, they'll likely face a Notre Dame team, which, again, I mentioned is ranked number 3 in Division II AA. And that's kind of the team to beat on this side of the bracket next to BGA, I think. And that'd be a second-round matchup for FRA if they can get past this first-round one.
The first round there, starting with, as we said, Grace Christian, Knoxville, traveling over to FRA. Grace Christian has lost 2 games in a row. Won 2 games in a row, scored a combined 76 points in those 2 games. Also scored 70 points in week 2 in a win. So the offense there for Grace Christian has been there. We'll see if the defense for FRA can step up. That's all of our games for this week, I do believe. Oh, sorry, one more. I forgot about Father Ryan. How can I forget? So 2-A, Father Ryan will travel to Ensworth, a 6-4 team. What do you like about this game?
Well, the Irish actually lost, 6 or 7 straight, I think, here, facing an Ensworth team that actually was shut out by Brentwood Academy last week. So I think the Tigers are going to come back a little resurged because they fell in a battle game that would have allowed them to have a bye, the winner of that one. So Brentwood Academy earned a bye in this first round. They'll actually wait until next week and get into the quarterfinals and travel to Christian Brothers. But for Father Ryan, this one, I think it was 35-10 in the regular season, week 5 or 6, somewhere in there, that Ensworth came and beat Father Ryan. So I think the Irish have an opportunity. Once again, you can never really count them out. Coach Rector's team really can, it comes down to their depth overall. They're not a deep team, and offensively, we just haven't seen them really get over the hump there. They had a couple opportunities. I felt like they should have won at Baylor, and that would have been that confidence one late in the season, but they just didn't get it done. So now they have to go on the road and the first round in a tough Ensworth kind of atmosphere.
The Fighting Irish there just had a gauntlet of a season this year, playing teams like MBA, Brentwood Academy, McCallie, Ensworth, Brentwood, Ravenwood. I mean, it was just a gauntlet of a season for the Fighting Irish, but they'll have one chance to come out with a win and make it to the next round in the state playoffs. So
it's win or go home time. Yeah.
Tis high school football. As you mentioned, Brentwood Academy on a bye this week. They'll travel to Christian Brothers next week for the quarterfinals. What have they won now? 4 straight, three straight state championships. So looking for 4 straight for the Eagles. I don't know a whole lot about Christian Brothers either over there in Memphis, but I like the Eagles against just about anyone they play.
Yeah, exactly. And it comes down, MUS is kind of the team to beat. I think kind of under the radar, a lot of teams fact, or folks didn't recognize, MUS actually beat MBA earlier this season, so they're unbeaten coming in there. Even though MBA holds that top ranking, I think, it's BA's right there. McCallie obviously as well. They're 9-1. They're only lost to MBA. There's a couple of these teams out there that are just spotted around that with just one loss. So it's just kind of exciting once we get into that quarterfinal round there in Division II AAA.
Could be an interesting end of the season for Brentwood Academy as they seek their 4th straight state championship. Well, Charles, that's all the games we have for this week. Sorry again, Father Ryan, for skipping you almost. But happy Halloween to everyone out there. Obviously, you can see that we are dressed up and ready to go, ready to do some trick-or-treating. I want some candy. Yeah. Charles, anything else for this week?
No, just want to be sure to mention that online you can find all the video coverage. Actually, we did a lot of soccer coverage as well. We got high school basketball and wrestling started today, first practices, so watch for all that coverage on the Williamson Herald. We're going to do a video a day here for each school when it comes to basketball. And obviously, once wrestling gets going too, we'll be checking out all those big tournaments.
Yep, the sports never stop, and neither do we, Charles. That's all for us this week. We'll catch you next week here at the Williamson Herald High School Football Weekly Report.